Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill's Secrets to Success and Freedom. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill is one of his most thought-provoking works, originally written in 1938 but unpublished until 2011 due to its controversial nature. The book is framed as an imagined conversation between Hill and the devil, who represents fear, doubt, and societal control mechanisms that keep people from reaching their full potential. The concept of drifting in Outwitting the Devil. Napoleon Hill describes drifting as the greatest tool the devil uses to control the majority of humanity. Drifting is a state of mind characterized by aimlessness, passivity, and lack of definite purpose. Hill suggests that drifters unconsciously surrender control of their lives to fear, external influences, and circumstances, making them easy to manipulate. Key characteristics of a drifter. Lack of definiteness of purpose. Drifters have no clear goals or direction in life. They allow circumstances and other people to dictate their actions. Controlled by fear. Fear of criticism, poverty, failure, or even success keeps them from taking decisive action. They make choices based on avoidance rather than ambition. Easily influenced by external forces. They conform to societal expectations without questioning them. They follow trends, beliefs, and systems blindly, including education, religion, and media narratives. Lack of self-discipline. Drifters avoid effort, hard work, and persistence. They indulge in distractions, bad habits, and procrastination. Reliance on luck or fate. They believe life is happening to them rather than being created by them. Instead of taking responsibility, they blame others, fate, or circumstances. Inconsistency and indecision. Drifters frequently change their minds and have no firm convictions. They lack follow-through, starting projects but never finishing them. The opposite of drifting, the non-drifter. Hill contrasts the drifter with the non-drifter, who is definite in purpose, has clear goals, and knows exactly what they want. Disciplined and focused, controls thoughts, emotions, and actions. Fearless, overcomes fear through faith, courage, and knowledge. Self-reliant, takes full responsibility for life and success. Independent thinker, questions conventional wisdom and chooses their own path. Drifting in the path of the unshaken. The idea of drifting aligns closely with your book's theme of resilience and independence. Your concept of the man who walks alone seems to be the ultimate non-drifter, a person who stands firm against societal conditioning, overcomes fear, and walks with purpose. You could expand on this by showing how drifting weakens people spiritually and mentally, while non-drifting leads to mastery, self-reliance, and divine alignment. Definiteness of purpose in Outwitting the Devil. Napoleon Hill presents definiteness of purpose as the antidote to drifting and the key to success, freedom, and mastery over life. He describes it as a state of absolute clarity about one's goals, direction, and mission. Those who cultivate definiteness of purpose become immune to fear, external control, and uncertainty. What is definiteness of purpose? It is the unwavering focus on a specific goal or purpose, backed by faith, persistence, and discipline. A person with definiteness of purpose knows exactly what they want. Their goals are clear and well-defined. They do not waste time on distractions or uncertainty. Takes decisive action. They do not hesitate, procrastinate, or waver in their decisions. Every action aligns with their ultimate mission, is self-directed and independent. They do not rely on external validation or permission. Their direction is determined by inner conviction, not societal expectations. Overcomes fear and doubt. They refuse to be controlled by fear of failure, criticism, or hardship. Their faith in their purpose keeps them moving forward. Thinks and acts with power. They are confident in their abilities and make bold moves. Obstacles do not shake them because they are committed to their path. Attracts success and opportunities. By staying focused on their purpose, they naturally draw the right people, resources, and circumstances. The opposite, indefiniteness and drifting. Hill explains that indefiniteness, vagueness, uncertainty, aimlessness, is the devil's greatest weapon. Those without clear purpose live reactively, waiting for circumstances to dictate their direction. Fear change and responsibility, preferring comfort and familiarity, are easily manipulated, influenced by societal norms, media, and other people's opinions. The devil states, A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind. Biblical parallels to definiteness of purpose. Your work draws heavily on biblical principles, and definiteness of purpose aligns with many scriptures. James 1 verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Proverbs 29 verse 18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Matthew 7 verses 13 to 14. The narrow path represents a focused and disciplined life, while the wide path is for drifters. Colossians 3 verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men. Just as faith in God requires conviction, action, and consistency, so does achieving mastery in life. Definiteness of purpose and the path of the unshaken. In your book, The Man Who Walks Alone seems to embody definiteness of purpose. He is not swayed by the world, he does not drift, and he walks with clarity and strength. You might explore how to develop divine definiteness, aligning one's purpose with higher spiritual laws. The dangers of drifting in the modern world, distractions, societal conditioning, etc. How mental discipline, faith, and self-reliance lead to unshakable confidence. Fear as a tool of control in Outwitting the Devil. Napoleon Hill exposes fear as the devil's most powerful weapon to keep people in bondage. Fear is what keeps people drifting, undecided, weak, and controlled by external forces. Hill identifies 6 major fears that dominate the human mind, preventing individuals from reaching their highest potential. The 6 basic fears. Fear of poverty keeps people enslaved to survival mode, afraid to take risks or pursue their true purpose. Fear of criticism leads to conformity, self-doubt, and reluctance to think independently. Fear of ill health creates paranoia and a mindset of weakness rather than strength. Fear of loss of love causes dependency, emotional instability, and a willingness to compromise personal values. Fear of old age makes people believe they are declining rather than evolving in wisdom and power. Fear of death prevents people from fully living and embracing the divine nature of existence. Hill argues that fear is deliberately implanted into people from childhood through education, religion, and social conditioning, making them easy to manipulate. How fear is used to control the masses. Fear paralyzes decision-making. People who live in fear hesitate, second-guess themselves, and avoid taking bold action. Indecision leads to inaction, which leads to failure by default. Fear leads to drifting. When people are afraid to make their own choices, they become passive and let others decide for them. Drifters accept mediocrity because stepping outside their comfort zone seems too risky. Fear destroys faith. Fear and faith cannot coexist. Those who fear rely on external authorities rather than their own inner power and divine connection. Fear creates dependence on authority. Governments, religious institutions, and corporations often use fear to keep people obedient and submissive. People trade their freedom for security, believing they need protection from external threats. Fear distracts from higher purpose. A fearful person is too preoccupied with survival, approval, or control to focus on their spiritual and personal growth. Fear blinds people to their potential and keeps them from discovering their true power. Overcoming fear, the path to freedom. Hill teaches that the only way to outwit the devil is to eliminate fear by developing definiteness of purpose. Knowing exactly what you want destroys hesitation. Faith over fear. Fear fades when one believes in a higher power and one's own divine authority. Self-reliance. Taking full responsibility for one's thoughts, emotions, and destiny. Action over hesitation. Fear is defeated through movement and momentum. Biblical perspective on fear as control. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Matthew 10 verse 28. Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Isaiah 41 verse 10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. Fear is the opposite of faith. The Bible teaches that fear is an illusion, a tool of the enemy, while faith in God grants power and dominion. Fear, control, and the path of the unshaken. In your book, The Man Who Walks Alone seems to embody fearlessness. You could explore the system of fear. How society breeds fear to keep people weak. The fearless mindset. How overcoming fear leads to true self-mastery. Spiritual fearlessness. How faith and divine consciousness liberate one from fear. The power of personal responsibility in outwitting the devil. Napoleon Hill emphasizes personal responsibility as one of the most powerful forces for achieving success and freedom. He argues that those who refuse to take full ownership of their lives remain trapped in drifting, controlled by fear, circumstances, and external influences. In contrast, those who embrace responsibility gain mastery over their destiny. What is personal responsibility? Personal responsibility means taking full ownership of one's thoughts, actions, and outcomes, regardless of external factors. It is the foundation of self-reliance, success, and spiritual growth. A responsible person accepts full control over their mind. Thoughts shape reality. Those who control their thoughts control their destiny. Blaming others, circumstances, or luck is a sign of weakness and drifter mentality. Refuses to make excuses. Excuses are the tools of drifters. Instead of saying, "I can't because," a responsible person asks, "How can I?" Understands cause and effect. Every outcome is the result of previous choices, habits, and actions. Success is not random. It is the product of discipline and intent. Never relies on external rescuers. Drifters look for saviors, governments, institutions, other people, to fix their problems. The responsible person understands that no one is coming to save them. They must save themselves. Transforms failures into lessons. Instead of playing the victim, responsible individuals own their mistakes and grow from them. Failure is only failure if no lesson is learned. The opposite, the irresponsible drifter. Hill describes drifters as those who blame others for their failures, family, economy, politics, luck. Avoid making decisions out of fear of being wrong. Allow external forces, media, religion, peer pressure, to control their minds. Expect success without effort, looking for shortcuts and easy escapes. Hill argues that irresponsibility is one of the devil's greatest weapons because it keeps people powerless and enslaved. Personal responsibility and biblical principles. Personal responsibility is a biblical principle that aligns with the idea of self-mastery and divine accountability. Galatians 6 verse 7. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Cause and effect. Proverbs 28 verse 13. Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Owning mistakes. Romans 14 verse 12. So then, each of us will give an account of ourselves to God. Ultimate accountability. The Bible teaches that true power comes from owning one's actions, thoughts, and faith, rather than blaming external forces. Personal responsibility and the path of the unshaken. Your book's theme of resilience and self-reliance aligns perfectly with this principle. The man who walks alone is a symbol of personal responsibility. He does not drift, blame, or seek external validation. Instead, he chooses his path with full ownership. Possible themes you could explore in your book. The burden and freedom of responsibility. Why most people fear responsibility, but why it is the key to true power. Breaking free from the victim mentality. How modern culture encourages irresponsibility and how to resist it. Spiritual responsibility. Just as one must take control of their life, one must also take control of their faith and connection to God, rather than passively waiting for miracles. Education and religion as potential mind traps in Outwitting the Devil. Napoleon Hill presents a bold critique of education and religion, arguing that both can become tools of control rather than sources of empowerment. He explains that when these institutions promote fear, conformity, and passive acceptance, they keep people drifting rather than thinking for themselves. 1. Education as a mind trap. Hill criticizes traditional education for focusing on memorization rather than independent thinking. Schools teach students what to think, not how to think. Failing to teach success principles. Most schools do not teach financial literacy, personal development, or self-mastery. Producing obedient workers, not leaders. The system rewards compliance rather than creativity or self-reliance. Hill argues that real education comes from experience, self-study, and learning from failure, not just formal schooling. He emphasizes applied knowledge over academic theory. White heavy checkmark key lesson. True education is self-directed. Seek knowledge that enhances your power, not just what is given to you. 2. Religion as a mind trap. Hill's critique of religion is not about faith itself, but about how organized religion can use fear to manipulate believers. Fear of hell and punishment. Many religious institutions instill fear rather than spiritual strength, making people obey out of terror rather than love. Blind faith instead of personal experience. Instead of encouraging seekers to discover God directly, some religions demand unthinking obedience. Condemning wealth and success. Some religious teachings promote the idea that poverty is virtuous and ambition is sinful, discouraging people from achieving their potential. White heavy checkmark key lesson. True spirituality is based on direct connection with God, not fear-based control. Breaking free from these traps. Hill argues that to outwit the devil, one must think independently, question everything. Do not accept something as truth just because an institution teaches it. Learn from experience. Real wisdom comes from life, failure, and self-directed study. Develop direct spiritual connection. Seek truth and faith without fear-based control. How this relates to the path of the unshaken. Your book already emphasizes self-reliance, deep thinking, and spiritual mastery. You could explore the difference between real education versus programmed thinking, the danger of religious fear versus true spiritual power, how to develop personal wisdom rather than depend on external authorities. Definiteness plus faith equals success. Napoleon Hill emphasizes that definiteness of purpose combined with faith creates an unstoppable force that guarantees success. Alone, each is powerful, but together, they allow an individual to transcend fear, doubt, and external control. Definiteness of purpose, the foundation of success. Definiteness of purpose is absolute clarity about one's goal and unwavering commitment to achieving it. It eliminates hesitation and makes failure impossible because every obstacle is treated as a stepping stone. A person with definiteness of purpose. White heavy checkmark knows exactly what they want. White heavy checkmark takes decisive action. White heavy checkmark refuses to be distracted by fear, doubt, or outside opinions. White heavy checkmark moves with confidence and power. Without definiteness, people drift, allowing circumstances, fear, or other people to dictate their lives. Faith, the driving force of success. Faith is unshakable belief in oneself, in divine power, and in the certainty of success. Hill emphasizes that faith is not passive. It is an active force that turns thoughts into reality. A person with faith. White heavy checkmark acts boldly without fear of failure. White heavy checkmark sees obstacles as temporary, knowing success is inevitable. White heavy checkmark does not rely on external validation, trusts inner conviction. White heavy checkmark attracts the right people, circumstances, and opportunities. Faith without action is wishful thinking. Action without faith leads to self-doubt and failure. But when definiteness and faith unite, success is guaranteed. Biblical confirmation of definiteness plus faith. James 1 verses 6-8. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind. That man should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Hebrews 11 verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Mark 11 verse 23. Whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes he will have whatever he says. Biblical faith is not blind belief. It is certainty, conviction, and the refusal to be shaken. How this relates to the path of the unshaken. Your book's core message aligns perfectly with this principle. The man who walks alone does so because he is definite in his purpose. He knows his mission and follows it without compromise. He has unshakable faith, not just in himself, but in divine law and his ultimate success. He does not drift. He is not controlled by fear, doubt, or the influence of others. How definiteness plus faith equals success relates to the path of the unshaken. Your book, The Path of the Unshaken, is a blueprint for the man who refuses to drift, who stands firm in his purpose, and who walks alone because he answers only to his inner conviction and divine guidance. Napoleon Hill's equation, definiteness plus faith equals success, aligns perfectly with the core message of your work. 1. The unshaken man, the embodiment of definiteness. The man who walks alone is not wandering. He is on a clear, purposeful journey. He knows who he is, what he stands for, where he is going, what he must do to get there. This is definiteness of purpose in action. He is not seeking approval, waiting for signs, or hesitating out of fear. He moves because he has already decided. In contrast, the drifter lacks clarity, follows the crowd, and lets fear dictate his actions. Possible section in your book. The drifter versus the unshaken man. A contrast between the weak, aimless mind and the strong, determined one. 2. Faith as the foundation of resilience. Faith is not just belief, it is certainty. The unshaken man operates from an unshakable knowing that he cannot fail, because failure is only a lesson. Every obstacle is fuel, because all things work for his growth. He is supported by divine law, because faith is the key to unlocking higher power. This is the biblical faith that Jesus spoke of, the kind that moves mountains. A man with faith but no definiteness is lost in vague hope. A man with definiteness but no faith crumbles under pressure. A man with both is unstoppable. Possible section in your book. Unshakable faith versus empty hope. How true faith demands action and certainty, not wishful thinking. 3. Application in the real world. Your book teaches practical self-mastery, and this principle can be applied in every area of life. Spiritual growth. A man must define his spiritual path with clarity and walk it with faith. Wealth and success. No man builds anything great without first having a clear vision and the unshakable belief that he will achieve it. Relationships. A man who knows his purpose does not beg for love, approval, or validation. He attracts the right people naturally. Definiteness and faith are the core traits of the independent, self-reliant, spiritually awakened man, which is exactly what the path of the unshaken is about. Possible section in your book. Living with Purpose. How definiteness and faith create an unshaken life.